As of the 118th Congress in 2023, the median age of U.S. senators peaked at 65.3 years, while the median age of House representatives, though slightly lower than the previous Congress, remained near its peak at 57.8 years, with the highest being 58.3 years. The 118th Congress serves from January 3, 2023 to January 3, 2025. The U.S. Senate has stricter election criteria and fewer seats compared to the House. There are 100 Senate seats, and candidates must be at least 30 years old. In contrast, the House has approximately 435 seats, and candidates must be at least 25 years old. One factor contributing to this age trend is the aging American population. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median age in the U.S. was 30 years in 1980. But by 2022, the estimated national median age had risen to 38.9 years. This means that in some states, the median age has already surpassed 40 years, such as Maine at 44.8 years and West Virginia at 42.8 years. Christy Wilder, a demographer with the U.S. Census Bureau, points out that the children of the baby boomers have mostly reached or exceeded the median age of 38.9 years. Although the population continues to grow naturally, the birth rate has been declining over the past 20 years. So the median age of the U.S. population is expected to continue rising steadily. The baby boomers refer to those born in the post-war period between 1946 and 1964. From 1955 to 1964 alone, approximately 42 million babies were born, representing an unprecedented baby boom. This surge in births also led to a decrease in the median age of Congress members during the 1970s and 1980s. For example, in the 97th Congress in 1981, 41% of senators were under 50 years old when elected, and there were only 6 senators over 70. In the House, 7 members were between 20 and 30 years old, 54% were under 50, and only 15 were over 70. However, the birth rate of the baby boomers is difficult to replicate. According to the World Bank, the U.S. birth rate was as high as 24% in 1969, but dropped to 11% in 2021. Compared to other developed countries, this decline is quite significant. For instance, during the same period, the birth rate in the UK fell from 17% to 10%, in France from 17% to 10%, and in Germany from 15% to 10%. Thus, the baby boomers still make up the majority of Congress. Currently, 66% of senators are from the baby boomer generation, while 23% belong to the millennials, those born between 1981 and 1996. Even in the relatively younger House, 45% are baby boomers, and only 38% are millennials. In the current Congress, the youngest House representative is Maxwell Frost, who was elected at 25 years old and represents the Florida Democratic Party, making him the first Gen Z member of Congress. Aside from him, all other House members are over 33 years old. The oldest is Grace Napolitano from the California Democratic Party, who was elected at 86 years old. In the Senate, the youngest member is Thomas Ossoff from the Georgia Democratic Party, who was elected at 35. Aside from 2 members who were elected between 35 and 40 years old, all others were over 40. The oldest was Dianne Feinstein, who was 89 at the time of her election and passed away on September 29, 2023, at the age of 90. Her successor, LaFonza Butler, is 44 and also from the California Democratic Party. Overall, in the current Senate, only 9% of members are under 50 years old, while 67% are over 60. In the House, only 31% are under 50. In addition to population aging, the increasing age of Congress members is also related to term length. In the 97th House, 18% were newly elected that year, and 7% had served for 21 years or more, with a maximum of 40 years. In the 118th House, 17% were newly elected, and 10% had served for 21 years or more, including 2 members who had served for over 40 years. Given the biennial election cycle, these 2 members have continuously served for 20 terms. This trend is even more pronounced in the Senate, where the age requirement is higher. In the 97th Senate, 16% were newly elected that year, and 10% had served for 21 years or more, with a maximum of 40 years. In the 118th Senate, only 8% were newly elected, and 14% had served for 21 years or more, including one member who had served for over 40 years. In recent years, senators have been more inclined to run for re-election to retain their seats. According to the U.S. think tank Open Secrets, the re-election rate for senators was 55% in 1980, but reached 100% in 2022. Open Secrets noted that the low re-election rate in 1980 was partly due to the election of Ronald Reagan, which allowed the Republican Party to gain significant Senate seats. Nonetheless, the 100% re-election rate in 2022 is the highest in nearly 60 years.